This is the plane the Navy called a pig boat, slow, strange, and supposedly obsolete, and yet it hunted submarines, rescued entire crews, flew 30-hour missions, and helped turn the tide of World War II. How did the ugliest duckling in aviation become a legend? I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. Hey friend, pull up a chair for this one, because today we're talking about the Consolidated PBY Catalina, the flying boat that looked like an ugly duckling, but turned out to be one of the most indispensable aircraft of the entire 20th century. This thing wasn't built for glamour, it wasn't fast, it wasn't sleek. Some crews even called it the pig boat, and others joked that PBY navigators didn't need stopwatches, they needed calendars. The Catalina could be sweltering in the tropics, freezing in the Arctic, and generally a climate-controlled disaster. It was a plane everybody complained about, and somehow, the plane everyone respected. Miserable to fly, but impossible not to admire. But here's the twist. The Catalina became one of the most successful flying boats ever built, and like so many underdogs in aviation, the story of the PBY isn't about looks or speed, it's about what it did. A plane built for an ocean. This tale begins in the 1930s, when the U.S. Navy realized the Pacific is, well, enormous. They needed a patrol aircraft with ridiculous range, 3,000 miles or more. Consolidated won the contract, not just on performance, but because they promised a price tag so low it made the accountants faint. $90,000 per airplane. Yeah, I'm in too. And the Navy designation PBY? PB stands for Patrol Bomber. Y stands for Built by Consolidated. Simple, efficient, bureaucratic poetry. Now here's where the Catalina gets clever. Those big float pods at the wingtips, they weren't fixed. They retracted up to become streamlined wingtips in flight, solving a huge drag problem. And that massive 104-foot wing didn't just lift the airplane, it stored fuel. The Catalina became the first production aircraft with a wet wing design, giving it the endurance of a flying camel. In 1935, the prototype XPBY-1 demonstrated just how far that wing could take it, 3,443 miles nonstop, from the Panama Canal to Alameda, California. Not bad for a duck that quacked more than it roared. From awkward boat to war-ready amphibian. Early Catalinas were strictly flying boats, no wheels at all. To bring them ashore, crews had to wade into the surf and bolt on beaching gear by hand. Romantic? Maybe. Practical? Not even close. Enter the PBY-5A, the amphibious version with fully retractable landing gear. It arrived with beefier R1830-92 engines, more power, better range, and suddenly the Catalina could operate from just about anywhere. Nearly half of all Catalinas ever built were this Amphibious 5A model. That's how important this upgrade was. The Black Cats, masters of the night. And then came one of the wildest chapters of the war. In the Pacific, crews painted their Catalinas matte black, slapped on extra guns, and transformed them into nocturnal predators known as the Black Cats. By day, a Catalina cruising at 125 miles an hour was a sitting duck. By night, it became a ghost. Black Cats flew the last 100 miles of their approach at 50 feet above the water using radar altimeters, skimming the waves, hunting Japanese ships in the dark. And because war is a place where creativity meets madness, some Australian and U.S. crews dropped terror bombs, empty beer bottles with razor blades shoved into the necks, whistling like banshees as they fell. The Australian squadrons adopted a fitting motto, the first and the furthest. They weren't kidding. Midway, U-boats, and a submarine club. The Catalina scored the U.S. Navy's first air-to-air kill of a Japanese aircraft on December 10, 1941, and at the Battle of Midway, PBYs not only spotted the Japanese fleet, they pulled off the only successful American torpedo hit of the entire battle, damaging the fleet oiler Akebono Maru. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Catalina became a nightmare for German U-boats, sinking around 40 of them. 2 Catalina pilots earned the Victoria Cross for pressing attacks despite brutal anti-aircraft fire. Stories of raw heroism seldom told. One U.S. PBY crew, after sinking U-464, radioed headquarters with the classic message, "Sub sunk, open club." Even in war, aviators keep their priorities straight. And in a strange twist of secrecy, the RAF Catalina that found the battleship Bismarck had a U.S. Navy ensign, Leonard B. Smith, at the controls, quietly participating despite America's neutrality at the time. Dumbo, the flying lifeboat. But the Catalina's most beloved role? Rescue. The crews called themselves Dumbos, after the Disney elephant, and they saved thousands of lives. One of the greatest aviation rescue stories ever told happened after the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. When Lieutenant Commander Adrian Marks reached the survivors, he ignored orders and landed his PBY in heavy seas, so hard the rivets popped from the hull. He took 56 sailors aboard, then tied the rest to the wings with parachute cord. The plane couldn't fly anymore, but it didn't need to. It became a floating lifeboat. An Army pilot once said, "When I see a PBY, I stand up and salute." And honestly, you can't blame him. Lieutenant Nathan Gordon earned the Medal of Honor in his Catalina for making 4 separate landings under Japanese fire, rescuing 15 airmen from Kavian Harbor. That's not bravery, that's something beyond it. The Catalina keeps going. After the war, PBYs still weren't done. Qantas flew them on the legendary double sunrise route across the Indian Ocean, flight so long passengers saw 2 sunrises aboard. These missions lasted 28 to 32 hours, the longest commercial flights by time aloft in aviation history. Surplus PBYs were turned into luxury yachts like the Land Sea Air, equipped with beds for 8, a full galley, and storage space for 2 14-foot dinghies where the bombs used to hang. Because nothing says post-war vacation like living in a repurposed patrol bomber. The Brazilian Air Force operated Catalinas deep into the 1980s, using them to deliver supplies along the Amazon. Their mascot? A winged turtle with the motto, "Though slowly, I always get there." And today, nearly 90 years after its first flight, the Catalina still fights wildfires as an aerial water bomber. Not bad for a slow, lumbering pig boat that experts considered outdated before World War II even started. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.